Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Today is Wednesday, July 16th, and a positive day in the market. We got basically across the board green for the major indices. The Nasdaq was up 0.1%, the S&P up 0.3%, Dow Jones was up 0.5%, and the Russell was up 1.01%. Looking at some of the major names, Tesla was up 3.5%. This is despite all of the adverse news coming out from Elon Musk regarding, the competing third political party, regarding the tension between him and the White House. The stock still manages to go higher, and really hasn't experienced a significant drawback or drawdown. And we are approaching earnings next week, I think exactly one week from now. And investors aren't really that optimistic about the earnings that are going to be reported. However, there's so much excitement about Robotaxi, about humanoid robots, and the expansion of the Robotaxi experiment and the final utilization of humanoid robots in a useful way in factories for Tesla by the end of this year, and then perhaps entering mass production as early as next year. All of this has gotten investors excited and really has added a lot of resilience to Tesla. So, I really think that it's very possible that we get a pop in this stock in the second half of this year. That is substantial. Bitdeer is up 7.5%. Bitcoin is at 118,000. Solana at 173. Doge is at 21 cents. And Pudgy Penguins took a bit of a breather after what was a monster run in the past month. It is now at 0.031, consolidating above 0.03. So let's talk about some of the good news that we got in the market. By the way, before I get started, if you enjoy these lives, do leave a like. Would really appreciate that. And this is what the market looked like today. So basically, as we said yesterday, we thought there would be a quick rebound in the market. Yesterday, we got a down day on the heels of hotter than expected inflation. Today, we get a green day. And we got two pieces of pretty solid news today. First, the PPI year over year, 2.3%, lowest since September of 2024. So that's good. It typically acts as a sort of early indicator for what inflation is going to be, the producer price index, that is, because it tells you the costs of the inputs for producers, if they're going up or down. And in the case of June's number, the costs of inputs were basically relatively modest in terms of their increase. Again, the lowest increase since September 2024. That is good news. And we also got another piece of good news, which is that Trump is not going to fire Fed Chair Powell. I think it's absolutely essential for the Fed to maintain at least impression of independence, for investors to have strong conviction, confidence in monetary policy, and the stability of that policy and reliability of it and predictability of it. If you start getting Fed chairs fired for political reasons, then that's really going to decrease overall trust in the markets. And I think, and in fact, it was reported that Trump had a letter written to fire Powell, and he consulted or was consulted about sending it and advised in very strong terms not to. And so he decided not to. So kudos to whoever sort of walked him off of the ledge there. And it looks like we are looking at a 60% chance of a cut in September. Now, I like when the market is doing well, even though the chances for a cut aren't, near 90%. Because that means that even without a cut, the market is resilient. It does look like earnings are coming in pretty solid. And, if we get increase or enhanced probability of a cut, then all the better. But it doesn't seem like the market necessarily needs it at this point. And that's 60%. There's a lot of room for upside. So that is very good. Speaking of earnings, ASML, uh, they produce lithography machines that are essential for producing the advanced chips that power the AI revolution. And they basically have no competitor. They have basically the deepest and widest moats of any company out there. It did beat on revenue and on earnings and bookings, but they are concerned about growth in 2026. And specifically, they mentioned that they continue to see increasing uncertainty driven by macroeconomic and geopolitical developments. Therefore, they say while we still prepare for growth in 2026, we cannot confirm it at this stage. The market did not like that language, pulled back around 10%, even despite the beat. That being said, this is one of the best companies out there. And so, I can appreciate management's caution, but I wouldn't be necessarily panicked if I owned it. Now, Tesla, we've been waiting on a cheaper version of a Model Y, or I'm sorry, a cheaper version model for Tesla. We haven't gotten it yet, but we have been promised that we will get one. Well, we were promised the first half of this year, so any day now. Who knows? Perhaps we'll get more color on this when in the earnings call next week. We didn't necessarily get a cheaper model, but Tesla reportedly filed plans for a new six-seater Model Y long range in China and signals a fall launch for that model. And we will obviously be listening very closely to Tesla's earnings next week. I I think it may be. I think it may put a lot of the worry uh, to rest that investors have, but we'll see. That's my hunch. I think that a lot of investors are concerned about slowing sales, and some of the numbers that came out are regarding deliveries. But I have a hunch that this will be one of the earnings calls that Elon Musk does very well in, and investors get excited about the future for this company. There's a lot to be excited about. So, with that being said, as I mentioned, leave a like if you enjoy these lives and become a PIF member if you haven't joined our community yet. Let's take some questions. Have you seen the new Israeli airstrikes on Damascus? Yeah, I have. And, that goes out to all of those geniuses that were arguing, oh, the fall of Assad was really good for Israel, or, somehow Israel was conspiring to bring down the Syrian regime, the Assad regime. People with that low of an IQ, I'm not really sure that even the events of today will change their mind. But for anyone with an ounce of hope, I think you should probably reflect on what happened today, and at least admit to yourself that you were probably wrong about that. Hafiz says, "Salam, brother Rakaan. Keep up the great work. Appreciate all your insights. It's my pleasure, brother Hafiz. Rami, good morning or evening, wherever you are." Anib says, any thoughts on creating a PIF mutual fund for aggressive investors run by you? Well, I am actually currently in the process of signing up high net worth individuals for um, direct management of their accounts. And by high net worth individuals, people with net worth of at least 2.2 million. And perhaps I'll have more information about that. If that's something that interests you, then reach out to me if you think you qualify. Alhamdulillah, sold iron last week after holding since January 2024. Congratulations, Anib. Congratulations. Any thoughts if iron and other miners, example Clean Sparks, will surge with the next couple quarters likely being profitable? I really like Bitdeer. I mean, I understand that its move so far hasn't lived up to expectations, but these things require some patience. Today, it had a pretty solid move, but still not where I think the potential for this company can be. It may require, months of waiting, but I do think that it's a, it's, I think there's potential here with Tether trying to become the biggest Bitcoin miner on earth, and Tether owning a big chunk of Bitdeer, for Bitdeer to basically be providing its Bitcoin mining rigs to Tether, basically has a guaranteed customer. And obviously, their Bitcoin mining rigs are, their new models are expected to be basically the best on the market in terms of efficiency and in terms of cost. And so when you look at the size of the market, it seems like a really smart picks and shovels play in the Bitcoin space. Obviously, Bitcoin continues to impress, and there's a gold rush, so to speak, to get as much Bitcoin as possible from, sovereign states, from companies, from individuals. And one way to play this is to get involved in that rush. Another way is to say, what are some, second order implications for this? And I think an obvious second order implication is that there's going to be a lot of demand for Bitcoin miners. And as I said, it does appear that Bitdeer is on track to have the best Bitcoin miners out there. And that's a very big addressable market. So, and it's growing. So I do expect that Bitcoin miner to do well, inshallah. Ibrahim Musba says, Salam, thanks for the insights. It's been really helpful. What's your thoughts on Ethereum lately? It's been doing a lot better than I thought it would. But yeah, I was not bullish in the past. Right now we're in a place where, if you look at the crypto chart, everything's going up, everything is green. And the challenge in this type of market is to try and pick the fastest horse, because pretty much everything is going to do well, but you want to make sure that you're on the fastest horse and you don't get wrecked. And I don't think Ethereum is going to be the fastest horse, not by a long shot. So, even if it does exceed my expectations, which are very low for it, for the simple fact that I hate dealing with it. The fees are high, it's slow. There are superior alternatives that are readily available. So I don't see why this technology should even exist. But there's, a lot of, it is sort of a legacy technology that, a lot of people have already built piping into. And so it still exists. But I don't think if it were to come out today that it would have any chance of gaining traction. And so I remain sort of unexcited regarding Ethereum. I don't think it's going to be the fastest horse. And so I don't see myself buying it anytime soon. What are your thoughts on XRP and XLM? Well, I'll tell you regarding XRP, I saw this stat the other day. It was something on the order of like, in terms of valuation for XRP, it comes out to around 20 million per one user. Right. And so you have to ask yourself, well, is every one user generating 20 million in revenue, let alone earnings, for the platform? I think the answer is plainly no. So that's probably overvalued. XLM, I'm not really an expert in. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this live. And if all goes well, I'll see you tomorrow, inshallah. Until then, make sure to take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you all.